So, welcome to today's podcast. Thanks for joining me. As we always start, this platform is meant to share information, education, to hopefully help you fulfill your life dreams and really progress you and where you're trying to get to in life. And yes, we talk tons about wealth building and unique investment strategies, but really, ultimately, what is going to help us pave our own path in life is getting control of our mindset and where we're going and how to use that to our benefit. And today I'm fortunate to have a guest all the way from Romania. Like this is why that's why I love this. This is so
Yes,
cool. Bogdan Rosu. Hopefully, I know I may butcher that a little bit, but I tried.
no problem.
And he's gonna and he's has a coaching consulting practice. He has some. I want to learn a little bit more about your martial arts and how that has guided you along your path. But you know, you're one of the things is around helping CEOs really deal with stress and anxiety to help them sort of have more balance in life. But I know you have a lot of other things you want to share about where you're going in your business and practice. So, but first off, really excited for this conversation, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you as well. Thank you for having me. And yes, I am from Romania, land of Dracula and Andrew Tate. I actually live close by to Dracula's castle, funny enough. But
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's
yes, we take the garlic and put it around our necks at night just to stay safe. But so
hey, we
still
gotta
have
do what
time
we
for this
do.
until dawn. Beautiful.
So listen,
Yeah. Yes, please.
tell us a little bit, because obviously you're helping businesses thrive, right? And business owners and entrepreneurs and really build wealth and success in their business and impact. But
Yeah.
how did this all start for you, like with this practice, anyways, consulting business, and step us back a little bit about kind of your journey along the way.
It started with my father. Actually, both my parents, of course. When I was growing up, my dad, back in 95, he started his own business. He was making these concrete building blocks
Hmm.
initially. And then he moved on to making concrete tubes for wells and sewage and stuff like that. And they had a very rough time, with the business. I mean, there were months when we were good. There were months when, it was what it was. And I always felt this need to help my parents, but couldn't, right? Whenever I was trying to come up with ideas about the business, of course, like kids' ideas, kids' plans, but the answer I always got, and my parents wanted the best for me, and they felt like that was the easiest path, was just study. We'll take care of the rest. You just study. I just hated studying. I like I had to do it. I forced myself to do it, right? But I did it. And I think that was kind of combined with this I was fascinated by people and how people would react to certain things. I would never ask and just do something and just to see people's reaction to something, and I was always the weird kid because I was doing like trying all of these different things. But at the same time, it was also the friend that my friends came to for advice. So a combination of these aspects and later discovering martial arts and later discovering personal development, it kind of led me down this path to doing what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think some of these, you think about entrepreneurs and business owners, and I think there are just some people that just know in their heart that it's meant for them, right? They may have
Yeah.
to mask it to some degree, like I did for living in corporate America for 20 years, right? But, for you, it sounded like even at a young age, you kind of had this glimmer in your eyes and curiosity about things, and that really sort of piqued your interest.
I did. I just didn't know it was called entrepreneurship or coaching. You know. So yeah, I mean, it's the calling you can't ignore at the end of the day. You might drown yourself. We talked a bit about it before. Most of us drown ourselves in achievement, but you can never silence that voice because it's inside of you. Like most people say, I don't know what I want to do, and it's always yes, you do know what you want to do, but you don't believe it's valuable enough.
Mm.
Right. Like when I was a kid, close to finishing high school, my dad asked me like, "What college do you want to go to?" I said, "I don't know." My dad wanted to kill me. What do you mean you don't know? It's like you're finishing high school, you don't know what you're gonna do. But the truth was, I did know. I loved martial arts, but I just didn't believe I could make a living out of it.
Mm.
And then later I did. And when I started doing martial arts, and I created the first personal development through martial arts program, like ever, with the help of my mentor back then I realized I loved coaching actually, but I didn't believe I could make a living out of it. You always know what you want to do. It's just like aligning what you believe to be true with what's in your heart.
Well, then, so when you went that, so the martial arts, because that was, it sounds like one of your initial passions or interest
Hmm?
areas. So you started down that. Walk me through that. So you started is it personal development through martial
Through
arts
martial
school? Like,
arts. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
tell me more about that. What was that? What did that look like?
I started teaching. I lived abroad for like 6 years, college in Greece, then a few years in Rome. And when I finally came back, I completely failed. I opened my school in Rome initially, completely failed. Then came back to Romania, opened the school, was also working a job. And for the year, it was really, really difficult to get in people into the school. And I finally cracked and I said, look, I need help. Borrowed some money from my parents to hire a coach. And the guy looked at what I was doing and he said, look, you don't have a martial arts program here. You have a personal development through martial arts program. Because like the emphasis on the mindset was tremendous,
Mm.
right? And when he said that, it just instantly clicked and that became my brand. And I later wrote a book about it. But the idea is that I combined two passions and I instantly was very different in the market and could charge much higher prices than every martial arts school in the country, basically. And people were loving it. They were becoming more confident, getting the jobs that they wanted, getting the relationships that they wanted, getting promoted, starting businesses. And yeah, that was kind of the path.
Well, that's a fascinating thing because I think certainly in my family is from Thailand and Buddhism was unfortunately I grew up in America, so I didn't know any other Thai people in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have a community, but they grew up as Buddhists and had very strong spirituality and controlling the mind, meditative sort of things were just part of
Mm.
their lives growing up, but not mine.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
ours was just America. You got to achieve, right? Got to strive for the American dream. So, for you, it sounds like the mindset was such a big thing for you as one of your passions outside of just martial arts.
Yeah, it's always like a yin and yang. I mean, meditating is great, but it's like, how do I use that in real life? So that was kind of the approach with the martial arts. It's okay, you know how to punch like really strongly, but how do you actually use that in real life, right? How to use those principles you're getting from the martial arts in your career. Like a simple example would be like when you punch here and your target is right here, your force is gonna be limited. But when you punch behind the target, you're using your full power, right? So if it's like you want to hit a goal, aim for the next goal if you want to achieve that one, right? Just an example of like principle thinking in that sense. So Buddhism is great, but having somebody to kind of help you guide you through those principles and make them tangible is very, very powerful.
Yeah, no, and then it doesn't. One of those things that comes with time too, right? I don't. I think for a lot of these things, we can get so trained on kind of this group think type
Yeah.
mentality, right? And we often don't, and there's a maturity level too. I watch my 17-year-old son and and recognize he's still maturing, right?
Yeah.
Thinking through things. And sometimes we're not ready for it. Sounds like you were ready for a lot of this earlier in life than some. But so what did that? How did that manifest after started after the martial arts business, right? To kind of where you are, 'cause that's where you went to, went into this coaching business after. Like, how did that happen?
Well, I realized I was kind of using the martial arts as an excuse
Mm,
because what I really, really love is to have like deep conversations with people and spark a transformation, change lives. I felt like I could do that a lot better and a lot faster through coaching. And yeah, it was terrifying.
is that when you knew it was the right path?
I mean, it's kind of the still kind of believing in myself as a coach. That was really the hardest thing. And I noticed that I wasn't the only one. It's like it's one thing to say, "Hey, I'm really, really good at basketball," let's say. But it's like, okay, now I have to teach these people. Like, oh my God, what if they don't become good? What happens? What am I going to do? Oh, I charge them money for that. Oh my God, right? So it's really, really scary. Like most coaches can listening right now can relate to that. Like first you have to, there's this quote from another coach, Rich Lippin, like the first sale you have to make is to yourself, that
Hmm.
you're good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't, right? If you certainly, I've seen it certainly on the finance side where it's such a sensitive topic that people can smell if you don't believe it,
Yeah, 100%.
right?
a
They can
hundred
feel it,
percent.
right?
But I'm sure you went through the exact same thing when you left corporate America for, this venture.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You have the imposter syndrome. Why should I be?
Yeah.
What do I know, right? You have all these, big financial institutions. Shouldn't they know everything, right? Why would anyone
Yeah.
want to work with me? Like you have these sort of things that run through your head, and stops you, right? So it's what's that idea? Like you gotta, water what you water, is so important, like in nurture, and that's kind of
Yeah.
your mindset, right?
Yeah.
You let the garbage in, garbage out type thing, and you let the weeds fester. It's gonna damage you, and I've seen it personally, and with others for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So So what do when you're working, how did you, and this is probably the beauty of it because you've kind of had to work on yourself first, like you said, right? You got to kind of sort of work through your own sort of challenges and mindset around success and what you're trying to achieve. Like, what are some of the big things that really helped you along the way? Just even your own practice.
I mean, my naivety and ego was so big. It's like all of those fears came with a huge ego. So I was like, who, me? Of course I can do it. Come on. Yeah, of course. But like inside of me, I was dying. Like, no, you can't. What are you lying to these people? You're such a bullshitter. Right? Continuously. So it would have probably been a lot better if I had spent the time to work, within and reach a certain point before diving straight into this. But for me, it was very much swim or die.
Hmm.
Yeah. And kind of learn along the way.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, and that's why for folks, that's even I share my story. It took me a good 6 years before I left.
Yeah.
Before I started, and it took me a while because I was so ingrained in that world,
Of
right?
course.
And it was hard. It's like almost like was chained to it to some degree, and I had to like break it link by link, right,
Yeah.
to extract. And so, Bogdan, like for folks who are maybe even thinking about, hey, I would love to start a business that aligns to my, purpose in life or passions, like,
Yeah.
what would you do to maybe, get them started to think about it, right? Because some of them may not even know what to do.
I would say, just to kind of acknowledge a bit, it takes a lot of guts to do what you did. A lot. I didn't have a choice because I was a horrible employee. Like horrible. horrible. I hated the job. Job hated me. All of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you do have a choice and life is comfortable and life is good, it's extremely hard. And it takes, like I said, it takes a lot of guts to do something like that. Right? Because, you know, the hardest part is just dealing with your friends and family who are saying, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, you have it good. Why mess things up? Why break, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But what they don't understand is that it is broken. It's broken for you. Right?
Yes. Right.
And being okay with that, I think, is very, very important. And starting to kind of see these conversations in time, gently, with your family and friends, it's like, hey, I'm actually thinking about this thing. I'm not going to take action on it like immediately or whatever, but you know what? Just kind of a thing, maybe kind of a side hobby or something like that, to kind of ease people in and also ease yourself in, to kind of step into that identity of being an entrepreneur, because that's kind of the hardest shift. Even if you're still an entrepreneur, shifting from the identity of thinking, feeling, acting like an employee in your own business to really being a business owner, that's also a very important transition. And that's, funny enough, the transition that my dad had to make. And I had this conversation with him, but this is another story. It's really about starting to see yourself being there and like, okay, unexpected problems come up. Okay, cool. I sit back, I relax, look at the big picture, look at what's happening, as I would at a control panel, just make small adjustments and then see what happens. And kind of start to ease yourself into thinking this way. You can be an entrepreneur while you're still in the job. And you start to kind of have this observer mindset, because this is really the business owner mindset, your ability to step back and work above the business, or above the job rather. Yeah. I would say do that first. The transition to entrepreneurship, the physical transition, not just the mental, emotional one, or spiritual one rather, will be so much easier.
Yeah. No, I agree. And this is, and And I know this is maybe a little bit on the softer side, but I come across people who are just like killing themselves because they can't do anything about it, right? They feel that way.
Yeah.
And, to be kind to yourself on these things, because, we've been trained a certain way, and we're all unique in our own thinking and perspectives on things. And we can be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
For doing things. And I said, it took me a while personally to get over that, and kind of just before you're kind to everyone else, be kind to yourself with these things, because, we put these expectations out there. And I said, you know what? Compassion for yourself and to others is, to me, a very important part of life. But you got to start with yourself. Just like you said, like you got to kind of figure out yourself, like what you want and
Yep.
kind of what you want out of it, right?
Yeah.
Before you kind of go crazy with it, because you don't know. You might be going down the wrong path that has no meaning for you. You got to find that out.
Right. There's a saying of, I got from are you familiar with Bashar?
Yeah.
Beautiful, right? So that idea that we never hold on to something that we don't believe serves us, right? There's a reason why we hold on to the whip, because it got us results.
Mm-hmm.
So we whip ourselves, we whip our backs to take a step forward, and we decide that this is life, right? But when you have a vision that's so exciting, that's really the first step when I work with anyone. This is the number one thing I get them to do. Create a vision that is so exciting that it makes you jump out of bed, that it acts like a magnet, that no matter what you do, how much you kind of go left or right, back or forth, it will pull you forward. You don't have a choice. When you have that, you don't need discipline. And later you realize that you don't need the whip anymore because you can just take these steps. You can just use the vision to move you forward.
I mean, imagine that versus what I hear from a lot of people. When's Friday again?
Yeah.
Oh, God, oh crap, it's Monday again. It's coming. I get anxious.
Yeah.
And I said, that's, you know, to me, I'm looking at that. So easy to look at as an observer and say, that's just insane. You're going to spend the vast majority of your life in something like that you dread. But imagine you had a life that every day is a good day
Mm.
because that vision is not here yet and you are moving towards it. And you may never get there, but it's still drawing you just like you described.
Something that I'm learning, because I'll be honest, I'm learning to take my own medicine. And something that was a huge, huge struggle for me, and I'm kind of working on letting that go, is when I feel like I'm my best self in these conversations or when I'm coaching people, right? But outside of these conversations, there was always this huge tendency to stress, to worry, to feel overwhelmed, right? And it's like, and to make myself small. It doesn't matter. It's like, even this is the caveat that I want to kind of preface and took me a long time to learn. Even if you go into entrepreneurship and you really love it, it's really your passion. If you're not choosing to be in a state of joy, of love, of excitement, of confidence throughout the day, no matter what happens, it's going to feel like your previous 9 to 5. Actually worse. Because you left the 9 to 5 for the 24/7, because like entrepreneurship is you're thinking about the business constantly. It never
Yeah.
stops. So having this idea of not even detachment, but kind of the understanding, because I've been telling this to my clients for years, like if you look at the negatives in your past and you realize that they always, 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 always open the door to something better that you never expected after having that, that shit show that you went through, wouldn't you want, like, would you care if the next thing that happens is positive or negative? And they're like, no, because I win either way. Exactly, right? So when you have that understanding, it really allows you to be in that state of joy, of gratitude throughout the day. No matter, okay, leads came in, great. Clients came in, no. Okay, whatever. I'll figure it out next time. It's going to be better. Okay, what can I improve, right? And just like having that state of relaxation really makes entrepreneurship and business fun, because let's be serious, it's not easy, right? But it can be fun.
Right. Yeah. And I take heart to with that mentality that, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we were built on, at least most people. I don't know what you think about this. We've been built to do hard things, right?
Yeah.
And challenge ourselves and grow. Like that's the fun of life, right? Because if we were all great at everything and everyone was equivalent, like life would be pretty dang boring.
Yeah.
Like, right? We're all the same people. We all have the same skill set. We all look whatever. Like life would be just really boring.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is the fun part of it. We get to learn new things. I get to meet people from Romania that I would never normally meet. Like I get to learn from people. All like to me, that's the spice of life. And if it somehow it helps other people, that's even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Right? And that's the stuff you're doing, like you talked about before we got on, like which I think I want to go down this path a little bit is wealth, especially in my world, it's we can, just like anything in life, we can get greedy on things. Greedy, and that could be greed in any shape, not just money,
Yep.
right? We can get greedy on our appearance, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but and ground it to say, okay, wealth is. This is what we talk about on this show a lot. Is wealth is just a tool to help us live the life we really want to, and
Yeah.
impact. things that we want to. And the more money we have, the more we can impact, right?
Right.
That's just a fact, right? And that's what you're trying to do with a lot of your business owners and entrepreneurs is to impact so that poverty goes away or
Mm.
impacts poverty in a positive way. Can you talk more about kind of that sort of vision you have for what you're trying to do in your own practice?
Yes. I try to share as I have, like as much information for free as possible. I think it's like a big part of that is education, right? Because fine, you can give somebody money, but it's the same idea. How do you multiply it? How do you keep it? How do you uh, enjoy it at the end of the day? Also, that's a huge part. It's just something that feels good. Like when I think about that prospect, it just feels good inside me. I don't know what else to tell you, like about
Yeah.
this idea. I think just like you mentioned before, when we get together and put our minds together, entrepreneurs can create some really really powerful shit. But the challenge is, like you said, it is greed to an extent. But when you realize that the most successful YouTuber in the world is the opposite of greed, right? Mr. Beast just gives away money like it's nothing, and he's just becoming more and more and more and more successful. I think that kind of just shows us what's possible without it.
Mm. No, it's crazy. Certainly when we talk about wealth, the one thing I read that really impacted me personally was wealth. Having true wealth is knowing that you would be fine without it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Exactly.
And yes, having more of it
100%.
is great, right?
Hmm.
But you'll be okay even without it because you appreciate, life in general and other
Yes.
things. And
Yes.
you going with that sort of mentality, which definitely I did not have growing up. I had the opposite. You just got to get as much as you can,
Yeah.
right? Even if you need to maybe harm somebody along the way. Um,
Yeah.
that's a much more fulfilling sort of mental state to have, I think, and allows you to kind of do the things that you're talking about, like really make a big impact to things that matter,
A
at least
hundred
to you
percent.
personally, right?
Yeah, and we're all chasing like these goals because we believe it will give us that state of freedom and safety, right?
Mm.
But really, it's really the other way around. When you achieve that state of freedom and safety, the goals come to you faster, come to you sooner. Whenever I allow myself to not care about the things, that's when the things came, right?
How
And it's
crazy is
exactly
that,
what you
right?
said. That's exactly how it works, right? It's like when you're dating. When you care too much about the date, you don't get the date, right?
Yeah, yeah,
About
yeah.
the clients, you care too much about the clients, you never get the clients. It's this. It aligns perfectly with what we were saying before, like allowing yourself to be in that state of gratitude, joy, and freedom. That's real inner freedom, right? Like financial freedom is not possible without inner freedom. You might have it, you might get it, but you cannot maintain it because you get there, just like you mentioned, it's like, is this all there is? And
Yeah,
it scares the crap out of you, right? I had this with my martial arts school, like very early on. Like I was making more money than ever in my life, more people, helping more people, and then I was like, what is this? Like
yeah,
why do I still feel empty?
yeah. And that's the amazing part because and I think we talked about, or before we got on here, is this concept of we chase idols or things,
Yep.
whether it be money, power, fame, pleasure, whatever it is that we can post on the Facebook um, to show how great life is. That they're just like idols that we're chasing, and that's not actually what's fulfilling anyway.
Yeah, because
Um,
we don't feel enough without them. That's at least the
yeah.
illusion. But when you realize you are enough,
So how's that? One of the things that I know you talked a little bit about earlier, but I think it's bigger than sort of. being at peace with yourself or meditation, but which is, I think it's been lost a little bit in this certainly in my part of the world, um, the spirituality or connection that
Mm-hmm.
way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think because we are so ingrained to achieve and succeed in that way, that
Yes.
is, I think, in a lot of ways got lost. And and a lot of people will say, well, that's what we're striving to get connect to anyway and serve
Yeah.
something that's bigger than us. We just don't know exactly what that is, but it's bigger than
Right.
us, right? What is your sort of thoughts on that? Like, and how has that
Mm.
impacted your life and your business?
I personally think that there's an abundance of both. What both spirituality and both like the materialism, the chasing after the idols, right? There's an abundance of both. I think the problem is that we really don't understand the principles of yin and yang, right? Because I'm either a spiritual person and all the material stuff I need to push to the side because it's evil, right?
Mm,
Or I'm either a very materialistic person that doesn't really understand the spiritual stuff, that it's woo woo. I think it's kind of there's an abundance of that, but understanding how one amplifies the other, I think that's what we're building towards together by having these conversations, really.
you're right. You're right. Because ultimately, the way that we're conserve the greater good is we lift as many people up as we can, right, in our own
Yeah.
unique way,
Yeah.
right? I look at it that way, and it may not be someone who's going to be a billionaire and sort of create Amazon or something like that. That may not be me. But what I do know is, and for those listening here, I mean, we all have something of value to provide in service to
Hmm.
others. And hopefully that makes you as much money as you want to do the things you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
As long as it's honorable and you're doing it in a fair and legal way, go at it, right? Like you talk about the Mr. Beast, right? The YouTuber. You call is that what you call him, Mr. Beast?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of look at it, you could say, oh, this is some shallow thing, but it's a way for him to get the funding to do other things he wants to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And support. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? It's actually great. So it is quite amazing how it can kind of how it can sort of manifest
Yeah.
in all of us in our own way. We have to figure that out, right? Through self-discovery. It's not always easy. Or conversely, we just like you did, you didn't like it when you're growing up learning things that you didn't care about, right, in
Yeah.
school, which is certainly potentially a problem with a lot of folks growing up, uh, that you're forced into it, even if you don't like it. Um,
Yeah. And that kind of translates into later into the stress because it's like part of me choosing to be stressed throughout the day rather than being, constantly the same person myself is, the training that we get in school because school is stressful, right? It's like, it's gonna, you go there, it's like you don't like it, you don't want to be there, but you have to be there, otherwise something horrible was gonna happen. And then it translates into if I'm not stressed, at least, right, for just a little bit or even the whole day, if I'm not stressed, something horrible is gonna happen. But it's really the other way around, right? Because Dr. Joe Dispenza was talking about this. Like, whenever we're stressed, we're actually stupid because our brain becomes extremely limited in its functions,
mm,
right? Fight or flight mode, which is basically stress, is not a time to create. It's not a time to make decisions or better decisions or even good decisions. So it's a time to, do something. Doesn't matter what, but just to do something. Doesn't matter if it's productive, if it's helpful, right? It's just like you have to do something. And that's why most entrepreneurs do busy work instead of productive work.
mm, to relieve the stress.
Yeah, and kind of to maintain the belief, right, that you grow up with. It has to be stressful, otherwise I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing something. I'm doing something wrong if I'm not stressed.
Yeah, and that you hear enough from uh, some of the so-called experts, that you've got to, grind it,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Hustle.
work 24/7, hustle, and and then I grew up playing sports, so I was used to like that was what I was good at. I wasn't the most talented guy, but that's what was my strength. Like I could hustle, right? And sort of be diligent around my work, and there's something to that.
Yeah.
But how do you become more efficient so that you can use your time and money and resources most effectively? And that's kind of what we teach here at Perennial Pride. But like, you can get so caught up in you've got to grind it and
Yeah.
sort of suffer
Yeah. Yeah.
to win.
100%. Which sports did you play?
I played American football and baseball.
Nice.
And so as a small guy, I was, pretty good in my younger days because I had the belief I could do it, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, you kind of push forward, but I was tenacious. I just had a thirst for getting better and working out, and
Yeah.
and that took me a decent level, even playing in college, because and that was a big feat for someone who's on 5'7", whatever, 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, and to look at me, you'd think, oh, how can he play? Well, you know, there's more than just physical aspects. It's a mental game,
Yeah.
which I think as I get older, I know how powerful that is.
Yes. Yes. I think you always knew it.
Yeah, it's just, you gotta sort of what I call self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And, my parents would tell me something or somebody would tell me, but I wouldn't believe it until you kind of come to grips with it
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? You experience it. And we're all on that, right? We just might find it later in life than we'd want to. But, as long as you find it, I think this is part of it. So, Bogdan, for you, you're working with, you share some good wisdom for folks who are maybe starting off, but for people who are already, maybe who are business owners today and are
Mm-hmm.
trying to get more, like, what are you seeing that's really potentially harming most people as business owners, and what could they consider or do to maybe address it, right? What's stopping most people from being successful?
100%. Focusing on the wrong thing.
Mm,
And here's what I mean. Every business owner has this programming, this temptation of, okay, let me find the next big business strategy. What do I need to do? Do I need to start a YouTube channel? Do I need to hire the best HR rep to find me the best employees, right? What do I need? So much focus on the external aspect. But the truth is, we were discussing this before. It doesn't matter that much. It's not that complicated, right? I mean, you're a beginner. A 5-year-old could tell you the strategy to grow your business, right? Find people you could serve, ask them what they are interested in, creates a product or service that they would buy based on what they said, repeat, hire somebody that loves the vision, so on and so forth. It's not rocket science. It's not a big deal. Now, are some strategies better than others? Yes, of course. Should you learn what those strategies are? Yes, of course. But the fact is that 90% of people know how to grow their businesses and don't. Why? I'll give you an example. I was having this conversation with my client today, actually, and I asked her to put down a number that scares her in
mm,
terms of her achieving it, like a monthly revenue. She puts it down and she's like, it's not it. It doesn't really, I think that's achievable. Okay, cool. Put a 0 at the end. And it's like, oh, okay, I feel it. She instantly started feeling tense and constricted about that number. Why would somebody feel that way? I mean, like, if you make, let's say you make $50,000 a month, right? And then you're thinking, okay, maybe I can make $500,000 a month, and you suddenly feel like small.
hmm
Why? if you made 50K, you can make 500K, right? Like it's logical. It's logical sense. If you reach this level, you can reach the next. Why? Because you have a belief that you don't deserve it. You have a belief that you're not good enough. And in fact, if you have that belief, success is more scary than failing. Because failing, you try something, you fail, you go back to what you know at the end of the day, right? It's no big deal. But achieving that goal, that specific goal, is unknown, right? And it's scary. That's why we're not using the strategies. That's why, like, even, you learn how to invest your money. That's why sometimes you make stupid mistakes and you lose all of your investments because you don't believe you deserve that amount of money.
It's crazy.
Again,
Yeah,
yin and yang. Please.
And it is, probably to your points, a fear factor of it to, some people say, oh, you're fearing success. Well, because that means that you become more different or have to change, right? And
Yeah.
there's a scare to that. I obviously I look at it a little differently now these days. Is like, who I am 5 years from now is going to be very different. I don't know exactly yet what that will be, but it's fun to find out and exciting versus scary because I know I'm going to have to learn a lot and meet other people like you and others like they're going to help build. It's just a part of the journey.
Yeah.
But if I'm scared of it, then I will never do any of it. Right? I'll just stop.
Exactly. And it's something very, very personal because, sometimes you can find them out by yourself, but there's a reason why they're called blind spots. Having a conversation with someone that can see them is very, very powerful and very helpful. You can even ask your friends about it because sometimes it might be the idea, okay, if I change, my friends are going to be like, oh, you've changed, and then they're going to leave, right? You're afraid of dying alone, right? Or I'll give you another example. I was working with this 9-figure client, and you would think that people at that level, like they don't have mindset issues. They're perfect, right? They're like, oh, they're super successful, right? He was afraid that if he tried different things in his business to grow his business, that he would make a mistake and it would cost him millions, that it would disappoint his family, right? So it's always working on two fronts. I said, look, what if we took 4% of your profits, yearly profits, and that was like your research and development fund where you test out new things, right? Would your family be okay with that? And he's like, yeah, sure. Great. So we fixed the external, right? The strategy. I always start with the strategy because the strategy is always easy, right? It's like, and then I showed him who he really was, right? And I said, you took your father's company from that level to this level. You didn't know what you were doing. You figured out his dad died when he was in his 20s. He had to figure everything out by himself, right? And you're saying that you've done so much that you cannot move things forward to the next level? What's harder, what you already did or what you're trying to do now? And he's like, yeah, what I did was much harder. Exactly. Do you see who you are? And that's when he lit up. And he's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. It reminds me of, and you may be familiar with this too, like some of the work through strategic coach Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, I heard of that.
He talks a little bit about what you just described there, like the gap and gain that you just always forget about where you came from and what you did. You almost discount it. You like make it smaller than what it is, and you need someone like you to point out, like, do you know what you just did? Yeah. You're more than capable of it, but you just figure out you focus on what you haven't achieved versus what you've already done and where you came from.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that was like punched me in the face a little bit.
100%. 100%. Whenever we start a business, we feel like complete beginners, and we need to go through that stage of feeling like beginners because we need to understand and learn new things. Fine. But after a certain point, you have to remind yourself of the assets you've built throughout a lifetime, right? I'll give you another example. Having this conversation last week with a copywriter, right? Making 4K a month, wanted to go to 8K a month. I said, dude, what do you think? Why do you think you can't get to 8K a month? Like, what's happening, right? Well, a lot to do with like the belief of him not being important enough. We went to his childhood a bit and kind of flipped a switch there. But more importantly, like, he said, dude, in your career as a teacher, were you important to other people? He's like, yeah. Oh my God, yes. In your relationships, were you important? Yes, 100%. Great. Now here's your job moving forward. It's not about putting the copywriter hat on and that's it. You're now a copywriter and you feel like a complete beginner. It's about using the identity as a teacher that you've built over decades and combining that with the copywriter, and that will make business so much more fun. And you get to be your full self, not just this part of you who you are exploring right now, but your full self. And that just filled him up with energy.
That's awesome, Bogdan. So now he wakes up, he's just excited, right? He gets out of bed, let's go,
100%. Yeah.
right? That's it, and to your point, now the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
When you have that, because there's something you're shooting for and you see something of that's just attractive to you for whatever reason. That's
Right.
really cool.
But you're seeing yourself as you are, because we have this tendency to see ourselves worse than we are, and it
Mhm.
always affects our income, right? Your income will always match your confidence and your self-worth. But when you see yourself fully and you choose to show up as your full self in everything that you're doing, your income will follow. It does not have a choice.
So don't fight it. Um,
Yes,
so Bogdan, I know
100%.
we were before we started. What I know we were talking about some community-based stuff. Like, what are you most excited about for like this year and going forward in your life and business? What's gotten you all fired up?
Yeah, definitely building the community over on school. That's fun. We're doing a 5 day marketing and mindset challenge. The reason why I called it marketing and mindset is because I polled my community, like, what do you want to learn from me? Like, I listed a few things that I'm really good at doing, and they're like, marketing, improve my marketing and offer, like, number one. And I was like, this is interesting. This is not mindset. It's like, you guys want marketing. Okay, fine. I will tell you it's going to be a marketing and mindset challenge. I will improve your marketing and then show you that you won't do shit without it unless we work on your mindset, right? So I'm gonna get some people and coach them live also to kind of flip the switch on their mindset after giving, the strategies, talking about their marketing and stuff like that. So that's fun and exciting to me moving forward for this month. In terms of the year, I don't know. We'll see.
That's
We'll
great.
see.
Great. So Bogdan, for folks who want to learn more about you, your business, and your background, where can they find some more information on how they get in touch with you?
I mean, Facebook, YouTube, my school group, I highly recommend that. It's called Real Freedom Elevator,
Okay,
the school group, and high emphasis on everything we spoke about today, especially like achieving that inner freedom to elevate your business.
that's wonderful. Yeah, we'll definitely include those in the show notes. People go check that out. I'll definitely be joining because I know how powerful that is, and even your calming nature is good. Like, I could
Thank
sense
you.
it with you, right?
Thank you.
You have a calm and confidence, and I'm sure it's reassuring for the clients you work with. I could feel it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this conversation, Bogdan, and you know, um, I know folks who are listening to this will get a lot out of it, and hopefully explore more of the sort of teachings that you have. I think it could be hugely valuable if you're thinking about getting into business or just trying to master life a little bit better, right? It's all
Beautiful.
good stuff. So
And
Bogdan, thank you so much.
and thank you. And I'm sure I speak for the community when I say we would love to have you as a guest speaker for our community.
Oh, I would love it. I'd love it. I'd love it. anything to help others expand their thinking and own their path. I think we're all in the same boat, so love it.
Beautiful,
Thank you
beautiful.
so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation as well.
Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.